In this video, we're going to show you to install the master cylinder on your Cadillac Escalade located underneath your hood. Before we install our master cylinder, we need to do a bench bleeding, and what this basically does is it gets the air through the master and out to the main unit itself, where the fluid is going to be coming out of here. And we're going to start by removing these rubber caps. And you'll need a bleeding kit, whether you purchase one or whatever you need to do. Thread these into place. We're using our 15 millimeter. Snug this down. Now the purpose of these here is once we open this up and we put fluid in here, this is going to go in, and what it's going to do is as we push in on the master here, it's going to work the fluid and it's going to pretty much purge out any air in the system. So when we install it, it is pretty much preloaded with fluid and it will not interject or inject any air into our brake system. Our next step is to install this on our bench vise. When we install this on our vise, we're going to put the ear in the vise itself. Now on my end, I'm going to use either a handle of a screwdriver or a brass punch that is rounded on the end on the inside here. And I'm going to pump this in and out from my side as that fluid comes through. Go ahead and secure that. Let's open up the top. Put our lines in. Put those down as far as it'll go. I'm going to add fluid to this here. Make sure you use the appropriate fluid for the vehicle application. Making sure that our lines are snug enough where we're not dripping any fluid. Now what we're doing here is we're pumping this. Our goal is to get all of the air bubbles out of this here. At this point here, we have no air bubbles in this line and no air bubbles getting injected into the reservoir. So we're going to pull our lines here. Put our cap on, secure that. I'm going to remove the bleeders here. You will lose a little bit of fluid here. Then we'll go ahead and remove the front one. So this is ready to install. Let's go ahead and remove the one on the vehicle. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and open this up. Now you can see that I have this all covered here because we are going to lose some brake fluid from this unit. So I just want to protect everything from that fluid as much as possible. Remove that cover, and we're going to use our extraction tool to remove as much brake fluid from the reservoir as possible. You can use something like a turkey baster or something like that, any suction tool, and then have a container to put that into. Make sure you're wearing safety glasses when doing this. Just put that into an alternate reservoir somewhere so you can dispose of that properly later. I'm going to try and get into that front reservoir and evacuate some fluid from there as well. And we're pretty much maxed out what we can get out of there. So we're going to go ahead and set that equipment aside. I am going to go ahead and throw this cap back on. On the outboard side, on the driver's side of the reservoir, there's going to be a little electrical harness. There's just a little clip on here. I'm going to use a pocket screwdriver. I'm going to open up this little tab and pull that connector off. On the side here, we have two lines. These are 15 millimeter. I'm going to go ahead and break both of these free. Expect some fluid loss here. Before we remove these completely, on the passenger side here, we have this connector right here. We want to go ahead and disconnect this as well. It's going to be in the way of us pulling out our unit and installing the new one. Just push in on the top side right here and then pull that connector off. Just tuck that off to the side for now. Let's continue removing these hard lines here. Okay, go ahead and pop those two lines out of the side. Now that we have the lines and the electrical connector disconnected, we have two 15 millimeter nuts we need to remove. There's one right here, one on the other side. So I'm going to use a deep socket with an extension. Now I did go ahead and spray this down with some rust penetrant earlier to let this kind of soak in and make it easier to come apart. So grab that master and just kind of give it a little bonk, loosen it up a little bit. There is an O-ring seal on the booster side here on the master. So go ahead and loosen that up a little bit. Now that we have the two nuts removed, on the driver's side, on our particular model, there is a retainer nut from the factory, or retainer washer. It's right here. And you need to remove that. It's basically like a star washer or something like that that is put on. So we're going to use whatever tool we can to go ahead and remove that. So this washer does not have to be reused. Repeat that, it does not have to be reused. If your vehicle doesn't have it, chances are someone has already been in here before. Okay, now that we have that removed, let's go ahead and grab that master unit. We should be able to slide that out. Remove that and set that aside. Now that we have this off, go ahead and double check here. Make sure that the O-ring is on the flange side of our unit and not stuck to the booster on the vehicle. If it is stuck to the booster, just remove it. Our next step is to go ahead and clean the face of the booster. Just use a clean rag. Wipe this down. The other thing you want to do is inspect the booster. Ours is really clean, but we have seen some vehicles that they're just exceptionally rusty around here. If it is, you want to consider replacing the booster as well. In our case, we just need that master to be replaced. Go ahead and take the master, line that up. We do have the O-ring on here already. Slide this back and into place. Once we have the nuts started, we can go ahead and snug those down. Let's go ahead and snug these down. Torque the cylinder bolts to 27 foot-pounds. Now I had put caps in here, or plugs. I'm going to remove those now. Might lose a little bit of fluid. Let's go ahead and position our lines up into place. Get those flared ends installed. Now what we want to do is definitely start these nuts by hand. Might have to wiggle that line around a little bit to get these nuts started. Make sure 110% that you have started these properly and are not cross-threaded. Once you feel confident, go ahead and grab that wrench. We'll start to spin those in. I'm going to get that one in a bit, and then I'll go back and get the other one in a bit. Now at this point, you just want to go ahead and run them down, snug them down. And if you have the ability to do so, you want to go ahead and torque these nuts down to 24 foot-pounds. And once that's bottomed out, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that's good and tight. I'm going to go ahead and do the same for the front. And when doing this here, be careful of the sensor on the side of the reservoir. You don't want to damage that. Now that we have those secured, go ahead and grab some solvent, spray solvent, and we're going to spray this down. Wipe all this down. Go ahead and grab that electrical connector. You're going to bring this around, line that up, install that. Just push it in. You're going to feel it in here, it click into place. And then don't forget the other harness that we just connected on the booster. Line that up, push that on. At this point here, it's safe to go ahead and remove all of our mats here, protecting the rest of the vehicle. We're now going to open up our cap. We're going to use the proper brake fluid for this vehicle application. We're going to fill up the reservoir. You can see we went over the max line. But what we're going to do is we're going to seal this up and proceed to our brake bleeding process. As we do that, it's going to leak out fluid and it's going to dissipate down through here. Periodically, we're going to come back and top off the reservoir during our process. Now at this point here, we're underneath the hood. We have someone inside the vehicle and they're going to operate the brakes. They're going to go ahead and pump up the brakes about 3 to 5 times to get a good solid pedal. At that point there, we're going to use our 15mm wrench. We're going to crack open the front line here to try and purge any air out of this here. Before you do that, make sure that the reservoir is full of fluid all the way up to the top. Let's go ahead and do it. Go ahead and pump it up. All right. Gonna crack that open. And we did have a little burp of air there, so that's good. So I'm gonna close that up. And we're gonna go ahead and have them do that again. There was another little burp there, so that's good. Now we do have a rag here to catch any residual brake fluid. We might have to swap this out soon. Go ahead and pump it up. Now as we're doing this here, always keep an eye on the brake fluid level here. You never want this to go below half of a reservoir there, so make sure you keep up on top of that. Okay, there was no air on that one there, so we're feeling pretty confident. We're going to do one more. Go ahead, pump it up. Beautiful. No air. Make sure that is good and tight. Okay, at this point here, we're going to swap out this towel here, so we can go ahead and do the same thing for the back line. Okay, pump it up. Okay. All right, it's buttoned up. All right, do it again. Okay, we're not getting any air from the back line here, so that's excellent. I'm going to do one more time. All right. So as you can see, even though we did do a bench bleed on this vehicle, we still had some air in the front port here, and now we don't. Let's go ahead and spray this down with some solvent and clean up any residual brake fluid. With the hood open, locate your reservoir. With a rag and some solvent, clean the top. The reason for this is we don't want to have any debris fall inside that unit. And the other thing you want to make sure is that you can identify your fill marks on the side. Here we have a minimum, which is right at the seam, and a max, which is roughly about an inch up above it. Open up that cap, twist it counterclockwise. In most cases, it's going to identify what type of brake fluid you want to use. DOT3 as well as DOT4 are going to be okay for this application. If it doesn't have that, make sure you identify that type of fluid before you replace it. We're going to fill up the reservoir. You can see we went over the max line, but what we're going to do is we're going to seal this up and proceed to our brake bleeding process. As we do that, it's going to leak out fluid and it's going to dissipate down through here. Periodically, we're going to come back and top off the reservoir during our process. So our procedure for bleeding our brake calipers themselves, we're going to start at the right rear, then we're going to go to the left rear, then to the right front, and ending with the left front. So go ahead and locate your bleeder on the back side here. We're going to pull this off. And we have a hose here that goes to a catch can underneath. I'm going to put that on. Now there is a clear hose on this that goes to our bottle. So what we're going to do is as we open up that bleeder, we're going to watch for air bubbles coming through. What we want is a solid stream of fluid coming through. So at this point, I'm going to have the person inside the vehicle pump up the brakes 3 to 5 times, and they're going to hold pressure on that. And then I'm going to open up the bleeder screw, letting fluid come through. Go ahead. Okay, they're holding that pedal. And open this up. Now this is a 10 millimeter. Okay. Pump it up. I'm going to continue this procedure. Could take anywhere from maybe 2 to 5 times. Okay, no air bubbles. So we're going to secure this. We're going to pull off our drain. Give that a quick wipe. Now we're going to go ahead and repeat the same exact process over on the driver's side rear. Let's pop this cap on. And we're going to do that same process on the other side. At this point here, you want to go up top, and we're going to top off the master cylinder fluid. Open up the reservoir. Fill the reservoir to the max line. Install cap. Now here we are on the right front wheel, and the third one that we need to do, remove the rubber boot from the bleeder if you have one. If not, it's just going to be exposed. And install our rubber seal here with our tube. Go ahead and pump up the brakes. Had a little bit of air in there. Go ahead, pump it up. Okay, that is solid. And clean off the port. Install the rubber cap. Go ahead and proceed to the driver's side front. Open up the reservoir. If the rubber is poking out like that, simply push that in so it's recessed. Fill the reservoir to the max line. Install cap. Now you want to clean any mess and pump your brake pedal to make sure that it's firm. If it's not, then bleed the entire system again. Torque your wheels to 140 foot-pounds.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.